Okay, MrMostDaysOff, now we're ready for the TeePublic ad.
Head over to tpublic.com/bestdarndiddly right now to support our show. Get yourself some Best Darn Diddly merchandise and help grow our podcast. I messed up there. Can I get another take?
Okay, just a second.
Out of the way, amateur. Hey, it's Krusty. Go to tpublic.com/bestdarndiddly. Hey, it's Krusty. Go to patreon.com/bestdarndiddly. Go to popthreads.com and save 15% with the discount code Simpsons. Hey, it's Krusty. Go to bestdarndiddly.com to get all your podcast needs from the greatest show on earth. Learn from a professional, kid.
All right, Krusty, we're ready for your take. Krusty?
Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Best Darn Diddly Review Show. This is a weekly podcast for anyone who loves The Simpsons or ever has loved The Simpsons, hosted by two dudes that grew up on The Simpsons. My name is Miles, better known as MrMostDaysOff, and welcome to our 101st podcast. We did things a little bit differently last week with our variety show. We had a classic funny episode the week before with Homer the Great, and we're switching gears yet again with one of the most heartfelt episodes of the series, and Maggie Makes Three. And making two on this podcast, joining me as always, your co-host with the most, Richie the WizKid. How you doing today, Rich?
It kind of felt like you were trying to say we're making a baby, which I guess, metaphorically speaking, is true.
Does this not feel like your baby, sir? I feel like a proud parent.
I said metaphorically speaking.
Our podcast just turned 100, man. We should be, super proud.
101, to be correct. You got to count every single episode, because The Simpsons does. But yes, you're right. This is regarded as possibly having the greatest, most heartfelt ending to any Simpsons episode ever. And to go along with that, I think it might be the greatest opening to any Simpsons episode ever, with the couch gag. It's definitely got a lot going for it. Don't know if it'll be in my top 5 for this season, but that just speaks volumes to the seasons as a whole. But definitely tugs at your heartstrings here. But I know it's been a while, but we will get there. For now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I have to throw it back to the man, the myth, the Shino-Ballo. It is Miles.
Yes, I did shine my head in the Shino-Ballo. Thank you very much. You know, it's funny you say that you don't know if this is going to be in your top 5, because when I watched this episode, I was immediately saying, oh shit, on the last episode review we did, Homer the Great, I was like, oh, this is probably going to be my number 1, and I'm already like, oh my god, but this episode is so good in a completely different way. And I just want to ask you real quick, right now, I know we've both seen this episode dozens of times apiece, but did you cry when you rewatched it for this episode, for this podcast, I should say?
I didn't full out cry, but I definitely had tears coming out of my eyes.
I cried. I welled up like crazy. It is such a hard... And I even knew it was coming. Yes, you know it's coming, but then when you see it, it's just like, oh, and your face just melts. It's incredible. What a great episode. So, why don't we go ahead and dive right into it? And Maggie Makes
Grab your tissue boxes.
And Maggie Makes Three originally aired on January 22nd, 1995. We do have a chalk gag, which is Bagman is not a legitimate career choice. And as Richie the WizKid already alluded to, one of the best couch gags thus far, we get the looking through the gun of the barrel James Bond 007 style as Homer walks to the couch, points at the screen, and shoots. This episode opens, like so many others, with the Simpsons family watching television. In this case, we are watching a speedboat drive by, and the announcer saying, "We now return to Nightboat, the crime-solving boat."
Faster, Nightboat! We gotta catch these starfish poachers!
And we see this ridiculous action TV show, very reminiscent of a lot of things in the 80s, but probably most closely to Knight Rider, only this time it's a boat instead of a car. I love that they're trying to catch these people and they make their way to land. So the guy driving is like, oh no, they're headed for land. We'll never catch them now.
Incorrect. Look, a canal.
And that's when we see the kids complaining, every week there's a canal.
Or an inlet.
Or a fjord.
Quiet, I will not hear another word against the boat.
And just then, Marge walks in and decides, you know what? It is time for family time. TV off.
That is so inappropriate because you know that was the part of the episode. Like, there's probably less than 10 minutes left. It's like the penultimate scene with the big chase where they're about to catch the bad guys. And Marge is like, nope, off.
I gotta agree. Marge could have been a little bit nicer here and just waited till the end of the episode. Though, at the same time, for all we know with Homer, he's been like chain watching the entire series all day. And this is like his 16th episode.
This is before Netflix, Miles. Unless it was like a marathon on like a Saturday, which I don't even know if they could do Night Boat for that long or if it would last that long. But still, she's like, it's time for family time. And if it's that time, you know, if the show starts at 7 o'clock, that means it's probably like 7:52 p.m. It's like, oh, it's time for family time. You couldn't make family time at 8 o'clock, Marge?
Well, Marge persists, and she actually demands the TV goes off, and she sets the egg timer for an hour. And we immediately see the rest of the family just stare blankly and boredly. Until Lisa has a suggestion to pass the time. Why don't we look at the old photo album, which feels like something we've done before on The Simpsons, doesn't it?
Everything feels like something we've done before on The Simpsons. But yes, it does.
Well, this is, of course, going to be a bit of a flashback episode, and actually it is the third of the 3 stories that we've gotten so far, and presumably total, because there's only 3 Simpsons kids. But this is going to be the story of how Maggie came to be. Starting out, though, we see a book filled with so many memories. And immediately Homer's looking, and we see a picture of the TV with Night Boat playing on it.
With the kids sitting in front of it. Aw, look, Night Boats.
Aww. And here's our TV next to the mirror. It looks like we have 2.
Wow.
2. And Marge is just getting more and more frustrated and says, you know what, how about we look at the baby pictures?
I love how the idea behind this was to have family time, but they do this clever thing where like they make the Homer and the kids spoil what Marge is trying to do without even knowing they're doing it. That's great.
I love the complaint when Marge suggests we look at baby pictures. I mean, the kids aren't excited, but even more funny is Homer's like, oh, yeah, that's exciting.
Well, I mean, with all the pictures they have of Bart sleeping, you can't really blame them.
I mean, to be fair, they weren't all of him sleeping. I mean, there is the one where he was dozing, and then the one where he was getting the visit from the Sandman, and there was that one at nappy time, and that really cute one where he's just all tuckered out.
And this is pre-Snapchat and Twitter.
That's a lot of film they're wasting on Bart sleeping there, for sure.
I guess he used to be a quiet little boy that did nothing wrong.
But as they're flipping through the photos, Lisa makes an observation and realizes there aren't any pictures of Maggie.
Well, I'm glad you asked. It's actually a very interesting story.
And immediately Bart and Lisa just start groaning again.
Oh.
And that's when we start to hear the tale from a time 2 years ago, before Maggie was even born. That was when Bart was Lisa's age, and Lisa was the age that Bart was several years ago. And I love Bart's line here, too, because he's like, grab the camera, Bart's getting very sleepy.
Which you can't tell in the flashback that Bart and Lisa are any younger. They look the exact same.
So it's funny you say that, because they actually talk about on the director's commentary for this episode, which this commentary featured first-time Simpsons writer Jennifer Crittenden, first-time director Swinton O. Scott III, as well as Dave Merkin, Matt Groening, and David Silverman. What's interesting, though, is they actually addressed the idea that they tried to do some subtle changes to the kids to try to make them look a little bit younger. They shaped their mouths a little bit differently. They drew them at a slightly different scale. But ultimately, they all admit that it really didn't work. But they just wanted it to be known that efforts were made to try to make them look a little bit younger than they were. And they just failed miserably.
There's also a couple of like continuity errors that we'll get into as they pop up, where it's like, how can this stuff happen when the character hasn't been introduced yet in the timeline?
Good point. But we will get there soon. For now, listen carefully, and our words will shape images as clear as any TV show. I love that Homer basically announces that we're going to have a flashback episode. It's wonderful. It was a tumultuous time for our nation. The clear beverage craze gave us all a reason to live. The information superhighway showed the average person what some nerd thinks about Star Trek. And the domestication of the dog continued unabated. We see Homer at work just sitting in his workstation, and all of a sudden there's an announcement over the speaker.
Attention American workers. Your plant has been taken over by an all-star team of freelance terrorists.
Homer declares, not on my shift, before we see him start fighting off hordes of bad guys, like Kung Fu style.
Kung Fu Die Hard style, essentially.
Only, almost immediately, Homer is cut off by Marge and told to tell the story right, and we see a flash to where Homer is making the same gestures with his arms as he was when he was supposedly fighting off terrorists. But now we can see that he's actually just letting his armpits dry out underneath the fan. And worse, Lenny and Carl are actually standing behind them, complaining, coughing, and gagging, and actually seemingly concerned for Homer, because after all, they're pretty sure no human being should actually smell like that.
And you can actually see his armpits, like they did the animation where you can actually see his pit stains right there.
I'm so glad you said that. I also made a note that I really love the animation in this sequence. And yes, it's absolutely disgusting because you can see his dripping, sweaty pits. But it also really does a great job of painting the picture of just how disgusting of a beast Homer really is.
Homer 2, Lenny and Carl 0.
Though apparently Waylon Smithers is not affected, or at least he's used enough to Homer's stench that it doesn't seem to bother him anymore, because he actually comes in with the paychecks for everyone, and Homer is very excited about this one.
Woohoo! This is it! With this single glorious check, I'm finally completely out of debt!
We see Homer check his calendar, and for whatever reason, he has a bit of an obsession with Dick Clark, because he was going to listen to Dick Clark and then watch him on, like, The Tonight Show, and then call and harass him. But that was all in the past. On this day, we see that this is the day Homer is finally completely out of debt. And with his bills paid off, he can finally quit this lousy job.
But Homer, how are you going to make a living?
Don't worry about Homer J. I've got a plan. A plan that'll fix you good.
Hey, what did we do?
Oh, sorry, that just slipped out. I'll miss you. And we see Homer carrying on with his plan. Apparently he has made the exact right amount of money that he feels that he is comfortable leaving the shitty job that he hates. And he marches right into Monty Burns' office, and oh boy, does he give it to him.
Is that so?
Oh, lovely desk. It would be too bad if someone, I don't know, didn't use a coaster. Homer just laughs. Such a nice, tidy office. Maybe it's time you started living like a pig! And he throws a single piece of paper out of the garbage bin onto the floor. And this really seems to be taking an effect on Burns. It's one of those classic situations in comedy where what Homer's doing doesn't really justify that much of a response, but Burns is reacting as if he was like lighting the office on fire in this moment. Oh, I hope I haven't upset you, bongo head! And we see Homer start actually playing the bongos on Burns' head.
Oh, I should be resisting this, but I'm paralyzed with rage. And island rhythms.
So, Homer is out. He's actually playing the bongos on Burns' head as he walks through the power plant, and all the other employees are kind of cheering him on. Lenny and Carl are there. He's getting a pretty good sound out of that guy.
Yeah, way to play the boss's head like a bongo, Homer.
So, Homer is officially done. He's no longer going to keep up with this back-breaking labor, and he's off for his dream job in paradise. And this actually is probably my favorite joke in the entire episode, as funny of an episode as this is. In this moment, Homer, as he's driving away in a golf cart, after playing the boss's head as a bongo, he crosses a bridge as he's leaving the plant, and in absolute typical Homer style, he literally burns the bridge behind him. He pulls out a match, he tosses it behind him, and the bridge just goes up in flames. Merkin talks about this scene on the director's commentary and how this type of scene is his favorite part of working on an animated show, because he does a lot of live action direction, and these are the types of things that you just can't do because that doesn't actually work. But in The Simpsons, you can change the timing, you can change physics, you can change it how you need to really emphasize the humor, and I think they did a really good job.
I just love it because he literally burns all of his bridges at the power plant. And then he tosses Burns out and says, "That's for employing me for 8 years."
Yeah, what a bad guy. Totally. So Homer has burned his bridges, but he's off to his dream paradise and to the final phase of his plan. And we see him drive up to the bowling alley, where he sees his friend Barney and says, "Hey, any chance you can get me that job here?"
"Hey, sure, Homer. I told you my uncle owns the place. Hey, Uncle Al, can Homer have a job?"
And we see a very surly man say, "Sure."
Woohoo!
And then immediately say, "Barney, you're fired."
Okay.
The surly man tells Homer to show up tomorrow and to bring 3 rags and a change of your pants.
Why?
When it happens, you'll know. Back at the Simpsons' home, we see Bart declare, "Wow, you're a pin monkey? Finally, I don't have to be ashamed of my father's job."
I think it's romantic, throwing off the shackles of the workaday world and following a dream. Of sorts.
I don't know if it's such a good idea. Can we get by on a pin monkey salary?
I love that she phrases it that way. Don't worry, Marge. I've come up with a perfectly balanced budget. Don't trust that, Marge. There will be exactly enough money for you, me, Bart, and Lisa if we make a few small sacrifices. From now on, we use regular toilet paper, not that fancy quilted kind.
I love Bart here because he's so mad about this that he walks away and punches the wall. Fine.
And only one of you kids can go to college.
And both Bart and Lisa are ecstatic. Fine. So we see things are actually going quite perfectly with Homer's new plan. In fact, everything's going so well, Homer decides that night, Marge and him should go out for a romantic evening together to celebrate. He declares that they went out for dinner and dancing, and we can hear Coca Cabana playing, but as we zoom into where Marge and Homer actually are, they're just listening to the radio in the Krusty Burger drive-in, and to be fair, they are dancing as they wait for their food.
Well, I mean, they just said they have to penny pinch, so you can't really afford to go out somewhere super romantic.
That's true.
But I wanted to say something about the scene. I think it's really sweet in a very Simpson way about how much fun it looks like they're actually having. And, you know, I know everyone thinks it looks bad when it's like, oh, we're going to go out for a dinner date and you go to like McDonald's or some crap like that. But they're both fully dressed up. Like they're dressed up for a night out. And even though they're doing like about the lamest thing you could possibly do, they both really seem to be enjoying it. And there's something that I think that could be said about that, where it's about the company more than it is about where you're going.
You know, with the right company, just about any venue can be a 5-star event. You know what I mean? Like, it just really can...
I don't know what you mean.
Up the ante.
But you might know what you mean, and that's what I love about you, Miles.
I thought I was just agreeing with you, but moving on. We see that this romantic evening continues to a stroll on one of the many beaches of Springfield, where...
This is before the snow season.
Of course, yes.
In the mountains.
Marge and Homer are romantically rolling in the sand together, and they are gazing into each other's eyes, and Homer, as he's sweetly staring at Marge, declares, "I've got sand in my underpants."
Me too. Let's go home.
So we see Homer and Marge head back to the house, but before we cut from the frame, Homer runs back to the spot and starts shoving more sand down his underpants.
Yeah.
Such a great Homer joke. Just the idea that we assume it's something that they're both upset about, but Homer actually just really likes the feeling.
One is two guys who used to play volleyball all day, every day. That is not a good feeling at all.
It is not comfortable having sand in your pants, y'all, and it ruins a good shower. Like, we both had so much sand in our shower in college, it was ridiculous.
Well, we instigated the no stepping foot in the apartment without dusting off rule, which is a brilliant move, by the way.
It was a great rule, but it still only probably got off like 80% of the sand at best.
Oh, but that's such a massive amount of sand to get off.
A huge amount different, but we still piled up quite a bit, I'm just saying.
Yeah, oh, of course it did. The dangers of volleyball.
Back at the Simpsons home, we see Marge and Homer still talking together. It looks like things might be getting intimate in the bedroom, and Homer says, as they're declaring their love for one another, "Everything in our lives is finally perfectly balanced. I hope things stay exactly the same forever."
Mm-hmm.
And immediately we cut to what's happening seconds later. And we see a gaggle of sperm that look just like Homer all colliding into each other. But finally, one little sperm Homer bounces off in the right direction and essentially accidentally finds the egg. Woohoo!
And I love how the shot comes out now, and you see Homer mimicking a sperm in the living room while he's telling the story, and he's doing his little dance moves.
Did you have to be so graphic?
It's okay, Marge. They paved the way for this kind of filth in school. Which, did you notice that, like, in these flashback scenes, Homer actually has 3 strands of hair instead of 2, and all his little sperm had 3 strands of hair, too?
I did notice that, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that here in just a little bit. For now, however, we find out that, of course, while Homer thinks everything is perfect, things are definitely about to change. Lisa assumes that her father must have been very excited to learn that Marge was pregnant, but Homer corrects her.
Actually, your mother hadn't told me. At that time, I had no idea Maggie even existed.
And right as he says that, he starts to sit on the couch where Maggie is in his spot, and he almost crushes her, but fortunately she gets pulled out of the way by Marge.
Dad!
Hi, Maggie! And that brings us to the end of our first act of And Maggie Makes Three, but before we cut to our break, I want to go ahead and talk a little bit more about Jennifer Crittenden, who is the first-time writer on The Simpsons for this episode, and she's also the first female member of The Simpsons writing staff. She was introduced to Dave Merkin after writing a spec script and working on The Late Show with David Letterman, and Merkin was immediately impressed with her. Apparently, according to the commentary at the time, they assumed that she must have been in her 30s just because of her maturity and the maturity in her writing, but it turns out that Jennifer was only 23 years old at the time, so really impressive just that somebody so young could find their way into such a very talented writer's room. I just wanted to point that out before we cut to break.
And since she wrote this episode, that's a great one to have as your first credited Simpsons script.
Man, what a heavy, hard-hitting episode to be credited for. Yeah, absolutely. And it worked out well for her because her career took off from there. After only working on The Late Show with David Letterman and The Simpsons, that's the start of her career, mind you. She did go on to write for Seinfeld, The Drew Carey Show, Everybody Loves Raymond, and more currently, Veep.
Oh,
and
wow.
a whole lot of other stuff in between.
It's a good launching off point, like you said.
Yeah, pretty fun fact. So that's going to do it for the first act of In Maggie Makes Three. We're going to take a quick break, hear from some buddies of ours, and we'll be right back.
Hey everybody, we are the Derailers, Goobs, Ripken, and Jenny Bean, and you can join us once every week for a brand new derailment. It includes sidetracking, randomness, we just can't stay on topic.
You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at the Derailers.
And please subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, and also on YouTube.
Derailers! Hi everyone, it's Mr. Most Days Off from the Best Darn Diddly Review Show. I want to say thank you so much for tuning into our podcast and also let you know of 3 additional ways you can help out the show. First, you can find and buy our merchandise at tpublic.com/bestdarndiddly. You can also support our sponsors popthreads.com for all your other t-shirt needs and use our discount code Simpsons at checkout. And finally, you can find us on patreon.com. Thank you again so much for listening to the Best Darn Diddly Review Show, and please enjoy this week's podcast. We come back for our second act, and Homer is still narrating the story of how Maggie came to be. For now, there was no way for Homer to know, and things could not be better for him with his new job. However, he was quite frustrated that it seemed like every morning Marge seemed to tie up the bathroom, and he does have hair to wash. We see Homer at work, and everything's just going so well, and Homer's actually taking the job seriously and seemingly working hard at it. He really likes it. He's straightening things up on his own. He's shining balls. Everybody seems to know and like him.
Hi, Homer.
And there's a great bit here where he's shining balls in the Shino Ballo, and he has this moment where he just kind of glances for a bit before shining his own bald head. Immediately, his boss comes up to him.
Homer, did you polish your head in the Shino Ballo?
No.
Okay, then.
And before walking away, he checks and straightens his hair in Homer's forehead.
I like what Homer's doing, all these like menial tasks that he's just in love with the job so much. He's like, bowling fresh. Urinal fresh. He's just so happy that he doesn't care what he's doing.
Yeah, it kind of goes to that whole bit of if you love what you're doing, it doesn't really matter what it is type of thing, but this is definitely a unique dream job, but good for Homer. It's great that he's happy, right?
Again, it's one of those moments where like it makes the downfall so much more saddening.
It does help contribute to the emotional impact that we're going to go through here in just a little bit. But before we get there, Homer is slowly learning the intricate mysteries of the alley, like where the pins go after they're knocked down. And we actually see a familiar face bowling on the lanes, Jacques.
Mimosa.
The man who tried to take Homer's wife that Homer seems completely oblivious about.
But it hasn't happened
just
yet.
Doesn't care. Oh yeah, good point. I didn't think about that. That's that inaccuracy thing we were talking about.
Well, this part's not inaccurate. That's just that guy's
No,
always
that was
at the
on
bowling
me.
alley.
That's just on
gotcha,
me being
gotcha.
inaccurate. Yeah. No, but that's really cool, actually, foreshadowing that Jacques is always at the bowling alley, so he will be there when Marge flees later on. For now, though, we follow Jacques' ball as it goes down the pin chute, and we see what happens to all of the pins once they're knocked over. They're basically discarded in a very large pile out back, and each time a new pin is needed, we see an entire log shipped in and carved down to the tiny size of a pin where it's painted, polished, heated, and then one man hand paints 2 stripes on top before it's inspected and returned to the lane.
This is 100% true. It's how it's done in real life.
That's why bowling is so expensive nowadays.
Yeah. I have a friend that's a maintenance guy at a bowling alley, and he can attest that this is 100% how it goes down.
Yeah, absolutely. Apparently, Homer's a jack of all trades at the bowling alley because we see him serving drinks around. And at one point, he says, if horse racing is the sport of kings, then surely bowling is a very good sport as well.
Hey, great job, Homer.
Thanks a lot, Homer.
Hey, you're the best.
And then we see this brilliant bit where Homer is singing very much like Mary Tyler Moore, spinning around in the middle of the bowling alley. And we all see where this is going because we actually see Homer holding a bowling ball. And as he spins and sings, I'm gonna make it after all. Do, 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 do. And then he throws the ball up in the air and it comes crashing down through the alley.
Oh.
Yeah, I think that's definitely coming out of Homer's paycheck, right?
I don't think they have insurance at that bowling alley.
Meanwhile, though, we see Marge is across town visiting Dr. Hibbert, who is rocking a very Arsenio Hall-esque haircut.
Congratulations, Mrs. Simpson. You're pregnant. Am I to take it that this is an unwanted pregnancy?
Oh, no, not exactly. It's just that I haven't told Homer yet, and with his new job, I don't know how we're going to be able to afford this.
Well, you know a healthy baby can bring upwards of $60,000.
What?
Well, of course, that was just a test. Had you reacted differently, you'd be in jail right now. Simply a test.
So, apparently Dr. Hibbert's got a little side hustle going on, it seems.
It's always fun when they show the dark sides of the other jobs of all the Springfieldians. Like with Mo a few years ago we keep talking about.
I was going to say, I imagine if him and Mo got together, they could have like a real profitable business, like
some
smuggling
Breaking
babies.
Bad stuff going on here.
Back at the Simpsons home, we see Marge is actually telling the children that they're going to have a brand new brother or sister soon.
Been there, done that.
I love that. That's Bart, and Lisa's just like, I hope it's a girl.
You know nothing about genetics, Lise. It goes boy, girl, boy, girl.
Hey, that's science. But Lisa, being a very perceptive Simpson, as we know she is, asks her mother, you're avoiding Dad, aren't you, Mom?
Why do you say that?
Well, you've been in my room for about 4 hours now.
Hey, I'm just hanging.
But when Marge goes to the bedroom door, she kind of crouches behind the corner just to make sure as she peeks out before walking out.
And that's the first time when she stands up that like you can see the very physical baby bump on her belly too.
Yeah, that is actually, you can definitely tell that she is showing at this point, but Homer's just so enamored with his new job, he doesn't seem to notice.
He might be working overtime right now. Maybe he's not home that much.
True, or maybe it's because they can only afford fast food. Marge is just filling out, he figures.
He's Homerfying her.
So, Marge decides it's time, and she approaches Homer in the bedroom. Homie, I...
Can't talk, praying. Dear Lord, the gods have been good to me, and I am thankful. For the first time in my life, everything is absolutely perfect just the way it is. So here's the deal. You freeze everything as it is, and I won't ask for anything more. If that is okay, please give me absolutely no sign. Okay, deal. In gratitude, I present you this offering of cookies and milk. If you want me to eat them for you, please give me no sign. That will be done.
I love Homer's praying that he turns it around and is like, do nothing if you want me to have an affirmative sign.
He knows how the system works.
That's super smart. He learned a lot when I think he learned a lot from his time being a heretic.
I still like what he's like, they will be done.
So we see Marge with her sisters, and her sisters are just chain smoking like crazy, to the point that you can actually see the smoke building up in the ceiling of the room, which is both terribly unhealthy for the baby, but also brilliant animation.
Yeah, and it just scenes like this always drive me crazy because you just want to slap them and be like, get away from Marge.
Seriously, I mean, it is pretty bad, but I mean, that's kind of the joke here in so many ways. But yeah, it's like all we know about cigarettes and pregnant women. It's just like, oh my God. I've got to tell Homer about this baby in just the right way and just the right time. Until then, please keep this to yourselves.
Oh, if he found out now, it would probably destroy him, huh?
Oh, yes.
Gotta go.
Wait a minute. Wait, I know that look. Now promise you won't tell Homer.
Oh, we promise we won't tell Homer.
And we cut to Patty and Selma with a open phone book dialing numbers starting with A. Aronson. And I earlier said that the burning bridge gag was my favorite joke, and I'm sticking to it. But my God, was this a contender, and very well on any other day might be my choice. I love this joke so much. Essentially, we see Patty talking on the phone to A. Aronson, and she lets them know that Marge Simpson is pregnant. We get one of those little, again, right. We get one of those swipes where it seems like a fair amount of time must have passed, and of course, Patty
she looks a little disheveled now.
And Patty is now talking to one Mr. Zakowski with a Z, the very end of the phone book. So it's wonderful because you assume that she just told everyone in town.
In the phone book?
Everyone in the phone book, even worse, until you get this wonderful line. Aronson and Zakowski are the two biggest gossips in town. In an hour, everyone will know.
Yeah, it looked like she had been tired. I mean, she's smoking a cigarette, like she's been working hard. But she only told 2 people.
Yeah, again, but the right 2 people, apparently, as we're going to find out here.
The first and last person in the freaking phone book.
That's just such a brilliant joke. I love this so much.
Yeah.
We cut back to Homer, who is having another perfect day in his now perfect life with his now perfect job. But something is a little bit off because a lot of people have well wishes for Homer. We see Wiggum drive by. Hey, just heard the news over the squawk box. That's a nice work, Homer.
Thank you very much. It is nice work. Oh, Mr. Simpson, I have just heard about the little bundle of joy. Congratulations, sir.
It's true, the bundle is little, but I'm not in it for the money.
Hey, Homer, way to get Marge pregnant.
This is getting very abstract, but thank you. I do enjoy working at the bowling alley. Homer, being the dense one that he is, of course, is not picking up on what everyone is throwing down. But once again, back at the Simpsons home, Marge gets home to a surprise that is quite unwelcome because she has not told Homer and she's very worried about it. She is having a baby shower thrown for her in her own home.
Baby shower? You know I haven't told Homer yet, and he'll be home any minute.
And Patty and Selma kind of coyly are like, oh, really?
Oh, really?
Yeah, like they didn't know. And just in that moment, the door swings wide open as if somebody was about to walk abruptly through it. But it was just the wind. Everything's fine.
Phew.
Marge just closes the door back, and immediately it swings right back open.
Hey, it's me. It's windy as hell out there.
And Homer immediately realizes that Marge is surrounded by all of her friends.
Hey, wait a minute. What are all these presents? It looks like you're showering Marge with gifts. With little tiny baby-sized gifts. Well, I'll be in the tub.
And Homer doesn't think anything of it and just walks right up the stairs until Maude is just a little bit too direct with Homer. She yells up the stairs, "By the way, congratulations on your new job, Homer."
New job? Marge is pregnant? No!
And we see Homer pull out that third strand of hair, reducing it to 2, which is somewhat of a callback to some of the other flashback sequences that we've seen before. And truth be told, there's several other episodes that kind of try to explain Homer's hair loss. But all the way back in the Simpsons episode, Lisa's First Word, we saw something very similar where he went from a full head of hair to a much less full head of hair. And in this moment, we get a montage where we see all of the sequences of with Homer starting full head of hair to balding to 3 strands, and now we've seen it down to 2.
What I love about this scene, and Maude in particular, is all she does is say, congratulations on your new job. And I love the bit overall because through that entire scene, people were making baby jokes at Homer. And he's like, oh yeah, I do love my new job. Right. And he's not connecting the two. But as soon as somebody only says, congratulations on the job, he's like, new job? Marge is pregnant? And it's like, it's a flip-flop of the entire scene. and the jokes that were going on. And I love the writing for that because it's so brilliant, I think, how they do that because you get it all. But it was just really funny that they went about it that way.
Yeah, I love the whole setup to that because, again, they hit it so heavy-handed over and over and over. I mean, like, I think when it's Apu or Mo saying, like, the little bundle of joy, I mean, how does he not get it? And there's baby clothes. It's great that this triggers Homer to understand what's finally happening, even though it absolutely should not have.
You know, I forgot to mention earlier that when Marge is going to Dr. Hibbert, I think he was in the mall at that point. I don't think he actually had his office yet. But you could see in the background an arcade, and there's a video machine said Time Waster. And I don't know why, I just found that really, really funny because it's something we always talk about with the HD world where you have to notice more stuff in the background.
I truly missed that, but that's really funny.
But I brought it up earlier in this podcast. There's somebody in the baby shower party that does not belong there yet. I don't know if you noticed this, Miles, but Ruth Powers is in the living room. You can see her handkerchief in her hair, and they don't live next door yet.
She has not moved in yet, has she?
No, because that's after Maggie is born.
Well done, sir. Good detective work.
And there's another instance, and it's not completely clear, but I looked at it from when Homer runs up the stairs in the current story he's telling. There's a picture of Homer and Marge on the wall on the staircase, and there's also a picture of what looks like Lisa in like a little bonnet. And in every scene where it flashes back and shows where he's being told that Marge is pregnant, he runs by the same two pictures going up the stairs. So I don't know if that means before Bart was even born, they had a picture of Lisa on the wall. And I thought, it looks like Lisa, but it's not 100% clear. So maybe it's like an older relative or Marge as a kid, and they just kind of look similar. But I'm pretty sure it's a picture of Lisa. And 2 instances, she's not born yet when he runs up the stairs, and there's a picture of her there. So.
Oh, because I was stopping to follow for a second, but you're saying like in the flashback with the hair sequences.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Got you. I was like, well, Lisa is born in this episode, but no, you're saying when we were seeing him lose the hair the first and second time. Okay, good catch on that,
You see the Maggie
too.
one, and then you see the Bart one, and then you see the Lisa one. And he runs by the same 2 pictures in all 3 of them, which, if it's a picture of Lisa, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, they should have pulled that. Well caught, sir. Man, on the scene.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
For now, Homer is trying to justify the concept that he was upset. I mean, the new baby in Marge's womb was a ticking time bomb, threatening to blow the family 8 ways from Sunday.
Hey, where are you going?
Right in that moment, with this dramatic line of the family disbanding, we see the kids walking into the kitchen.
Dad, you can't expect a person to sit for 30 minutes straight.
I'm going to go get a snack, or maybe go to the bathroom.
I'll stay here, but I'm going to think about products I might like to purchase.
Marge closes her eyes and focuses.
Oh. Ooh, I don't have that.
And thinking about things you might want to purchase while taking a break from a 30-minute show. I wouldn't know anything about this. This show's way longer than half an hour. But that is the end of our second act of And Maggie Makes Three, so we're going to go ahead and take a quick break as well, hear from a couple of our sponsors, and we'll be right back for the conclusion of And Maggie Makes Three.
And now it's time for our favorite part of the show. What's that say? Ads and sponsorship. Ugh, this is gonna be a real nightmare. Okay, what do you got for me? Patreon.com? What the hell is that? And they just give us money for it? Oh, if only we had that around in the 70s. Make sure you ask your mommies and daddies to send money to Best Darn Diddly at patreon.com. So they can drive a dump truck full of money up to our houses. Uh-oh, I said the loud part quiet and the quiet part loud.
Hi, I'm MrMostDaysOff. You might remember me from such podcasts as the 50th Podcast Celebration Show and the Michael Price interview. I brought a friend along today to talk to you about an exciting new product.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Richie the WizKid.
Miles, did you know that most people don't know where to get cool pop culture shirts?
I had no idea.
If you go to popthreads.com, you'll find a great selection of t-shirts, and if you use the discount code Simpsons, you can save 15% on your order. And that's good news for everybody.
That is good news for everybody.
And did you know the shirts are also inflammable?
Richie, that means they catch on fire.
I had no idea.
Help support the Best Darn Diddly Review Show by using our discount code Simpsons at popthreads.com. And do try to stay away from open flames.
Bye, everybody.
When we come back from our second break, we see Homer is not really excited about what's going down. And that might just be a bit of an understatement.
Oh, you're pregnant. We're going to have a baby. All our financial plans are ruined. We're doomed. Doomed, I tells you.
And we actually see Homer's head literally expand and explode.
Bart, let your father tell the story.
So we see that Bart had decided to take some creative liberties. And Bart reminds them that he does know funny.
We're doomed!
And we see that the story continues, but Marge makes a few further corrections. Homer, you did have a head.
Pop.
And your bottom was a little bigger.
Aww.
You've worked hard at the bowling alley. Why don't you ask for a raise?
Yeah, a raise. I've never been good enough at any job to deserve one before, but I'm damn good at this one. That's it. I'm going to march right up to Al and say...
And Homer cuts from planning this conversation to actually being in this conversation at the bowling alley.
Al, I think I deserve a raise.
You're a hard worker, and I'd like to give you a raise, but the alley just ain't doing enough business to pay that kind of money.
How about if I triple the business? Then could I get a raise?
Well, yeah, but... And this next sequence is my third favorite joke in the Simpsons, and could easily jump up into that spot at any time, but we get this great montage sequence where Homer at first is reading advanced marketing, and he's got these great glasses on that cut off halfway up, and it's this wonderful look, and Homer's really diving into the books, but then we get a swipe, and we see advanced marketing is now sitting in the trash can besides Homer, and he has switched to beginner's marketing. Same before, really focused, looks like he's making some good progress. We get another swipe, and next thing we know, we now have both beginner's marketing and advanced marketing in the trash can. Homer has a dictionary open, and he's reading the definition of marketing.
Smart man, way to work backwards.
He also just stares at the bowling ball for a while, and eventually he has an idea.
Of course.
And the next day, we see him standing in front of the bowling alley, firing a shotgun repeatedly into the air, and people screaming and running in absolute terror.
I think a lot of people have used that meme over the years, if I'm not mistaken.
I love Lisa just assumes that her father's gone off the rails. Mom, make Dad tell the story right.
That's what really happened.
Oh.
Is she so distraught?
She is upset.
Because it's like the worst of the what were thought made up parts of the story out of all of them was that. But it was the truth.
And to Homer's credit, his marketing plan actually attracted a record number of police and fire officials that day, but few of them stayed to bowl. He had failed, and he had to quit his dream job, which was the hardest thing he had ever had to do.
You did a really great job, Homer, and I'm really going to miss you. This place has never been cleaner, and the way you kept the young people away, woo, that was beautiful.
Well done, Homer, well done.
Anyway, we all pitched in and got you this little going away thing.
And we see Homer receives this wonderful purple jacket with, on the back it has stitched, "Sorry you had to split." Ha, get it? Bowling puns.
Which he had been eyeing that jacket when he first came to the bowling alley in this episode. He had his face up against the glass looking at it.
Yeah, it was on the, pro shop on display.
Yeah.
Homer actually starts to well up a little bit. This was the happiest time of my life. I'll never forget you guys. Especially you, Joey. And we see a young boy, a little shoe shine, very reminiscent of maybe a Tiny Tim type of character.
He reminded me of a kid on the newsstand going, extra, extra.
Yeah, Newsy could be there, yeah, as well.
See you around, Mr. Homer.
Don't worry, Joey. We'll make it to California someday.
Sure we will, Mr. Homer. Sure we will.
And as Merkin points out, anytime a person is coughing things out into a handkerchief, you know their outlook is not positive.
And there's your Merkin moment.
We see a bunch of bowlers gathering around, and to be fair, at first they legitimately seem quite upset. It's going to be real sad around here without you, Homer.
Boy, this is depressing.
Hey, I know what would cheer us up. Bowling!
They got over it pretty quick, didn't they?
It's kind of a fun but sad moment. And I mean, to be fair though, it's essentially what would probably happen in real life. Maybe a slightly longer pause just so he gets out of earshot before the pins start falling again.
But this is what we were alluding to earlier, where it's you really feel bad for Homer because he didn't have a single bad moment that we saw while he was working for the bowling alley. And of course, it's him remembering, so we kind of fib a little bit in our memories where things that are good seem even better and things that are bad seem even worse. But Homer legitimately loved where he was at in life and loved everything he was doing. And it sucks when you see a character or a person that you care about going through something like that.
100% couldn't agree more. And this next sequence entirely is just rough to watch in the sense that you truly feel bad for Homer because he hears his friends starting to have a good time and he realizes that he needs more money to support his growing family, and there's only one place in town that a man like Homer can make it. And we see the camera pan to the Springfield power plant, where Homer begins making his very slow walk. You can see there's like a pacing that he doesn't really want to go, but he feels like he just has to do it. And just to make things even worse, when he arrives, it starts to rain. But not just any rain. The guard at the gate says, uh-oh, acid rain again. And he puts on a gas mask, which is terrifying. And this acid rain is so strong and apparently specifically works on bowling jackets because the bowling jacket starts to disintegrate under the drops. And his brand new gift, his thing that he coveted most, his sign or symbol of a happy time in his life.
The last attachment to his happiness.
And it just melted away, literally, off of him.
It's so upsetting.
Homer walks into the front desk where he's greeted by a woman who asks if he's a new applicant.
Actually, I quit and I came to get my job back.
Through there, and we see her point to a doggy door that basically forces Homer to be down on his hands and knees, and based on the way that he comes out of it, it must be pretty filthy because he comes out choking and coughing up dust.
And it says supplicant on it.
Oh, yeah, and it leads directly into Mr. Burns' office.
So, come crawling back, eh?
Seems like the classy thing to do would be not to call attention to it.
And it's nice of him, though, to give him his old job back.
Well, Homer thanks them for giving his old job back, but Burns has a minor correction.
I'm afraid it's not that simple. As punishment for your desertion, it's company policy to give you the plague.
Sir, that's the plaque?
Ah, yes. The special demotivational plaque to break what's left of your spirit. Because, you see, you're here forever.
And we cut to Waylon Smithers screwing in a sign that literally says, don't forget, you're here forever. And it sits directly in front of Homer's workstation where he'll be forced to stare at it all day long.
Don't forget, you're here forever. I love that he wants to give Homer the plague.
Yeah. You can't get away with that anymore, Burnsy. Back at the Simpsons home, it's basically back to rock bottom, or maybe even worse, because now he's seen the light, and Homer's downright miserable. But he can't take it out on Marge and the kids. He knows he has to take that burden on his own. When he walks in, he greets Marge. Hi, honey, how are you?
Well, actually...
I can't go with this charade any longer. I hate my job, I hate my life, and ever since I found out about this baby, there's been nothing but bad luck.
My contraction started an hour ago.
It's just in one ear and out the other with you, isn't it, Marge?
Which I didn't realize that he just waited till this day, or like maybe a few days before, to quit the bowling alley job. Like, you get 9 months. Well, she waited a long time to tell him. You get a couple months at least to save some income from the power plant, right?
You would think.
But yeah, this pregnancy went along super fast, almost Jedi/wizard-like ability powers.
I just love this whole concept where Homer is trying to have a strong face for his family, and he breaks down
Immediately
in 2 words. And
Yeah.
Merkin, again from the commentary, actually talks about this joke and says this is taken directly from his life, because there are many times where he's tried to hold things in from his family or friends and immediately breaks down. He's just unable to control himself. They did exaggerate it a little bit, but admittedly, I think that I know I can identify with this, and I'm sure probably others out there listening can as well, but there's definitely been times where I've thought to myself, okay, you really have to just carry this burden on your own and be tough. And I think we all make it a little bit longer than Homer does, but eventually we learn that we cannot carry those emotional burdens alone. That's the reason that friendships and companionship and talking and all those things are so important.
Yeah, I'm in that ballpark with you, man. There's times where you're like, there's no reason to tell people about this other thing. This is your responsibility. You can handle it. And then as soon as you're alone, I wish I could tell 500 people. Nobody knows what I'm going through.
Yeah, no, definitely. Anytime you deal with anything heavy, yeah, we've all been there. It happens to all of us. And this is such a great... I think this is the, id version. I mean, that's what Homer essentially is. So this is, the immediate, what we really want to do. Homer just flat out embraces it. But for now, it's off to the hospital. And when we get there, we actually see Mayor Quimby holding a newborn child right next to a young woman who just seemingly delivered it. This is incredible. It's God's most wondrous miracle.
Sir, I think your wife wants to hold the baby.
My wife? Where?
And the woman was clearly blonde, I think, if I remember correctly. But he thought his actual wife was there, and the nurse thought the woman who gave birth was the wife.
It's a good joke. The
Yeah.
corrupt mayor. Good stuff. I also really like what they do with the sea captain, because he also apparently just had a baby with somebody. But instead of holding it up like a baby, he says to his child,
Arg, you're truly the catch of the day.
and he's holding the baby up by his feet, upside down, as if he were showing off a fish he just caught.
And now it's time for the big guy.
Meanwhile, Marge and Homer's moment isn't quite as magical. It seems that Homer is trying to put on a strong face, but he's not doing a good job. It's wonderful. It's magical. Oh boy, here it comes. Another mouth.
One more push, do it.
Marvelous.
Congratulations, Mr. Simpson. You have a beautiful, healthy baby.
We actually hear crying coming from the background, and Homer's kind of still being like, okay, and he gives a thumbs up, whatever. But almost immediately, Maggie grabs onto that thumb. Huh?
Homie, I think someone is saying hello.
Hello? Ah, it's a boy! And what a boy!
That's the umbilical cord. It's a girl.
A girl? Oh, Marge, we have a wonderful baby girl. Not just a girl, the most beautiful baby girl in the whole world. Come on, Marge, show a little enthusiasm. But to be fair, Marge actually smiles at this. They kiss. And this is actually funny because Maggie is kind of trying to imitate her parents, it would seem, in this moment. But since there's no one there kissing back, she grabs the next best thing. And we see Maggie get her pacifier for the very first time.
From somewhere.
Yeah, where did it come from? That's a good point.
Her magical ability.
That's it.
Use the
Magical
Force.
Maggie. This is where it starts. Pling. We cut back to the present one last time, and Lisa declares in a very sweet manner, "So you loved her right from the start?" Homer's actually tickling Maggie in this moment and giggling.
Absolutely.
Bart brings up a good question. Then why no pictures?
Oh, there are pictures. I keep them where I need the most cheering up. Damn it, I'm going to cry just saying the line.
I swear to God, I'm tearing up right. Oh my God. I'm seriously, I can feel the tears coming in the back of my eyeballs right now. This is insane. I'm not even watching the show, but we get a shot of Homer at work with that emotional plaque.
Don't you mean the plague?
Yeah, the plague. The one that says, "Don't forget you're here forever." Only as we cut across Homer's office, we see all of these wonderful pictures of Maggie, and he has strategically covered that sign in a way where it proudly reminds him each and every day to do it for her. And I goddamn swear a fucking tear just rolled down my ear. Oh my God, this is insane. Super sweet. I actually texted a friend earlier who doesn't watch The Simpsons that this is possibly the sweetest ending to any television show in the history of television.
Well, it just means a lot more coming from something where the show is supposed to be so funny all the time, but this one in particular, everything in the last minute up until the moment Maggie's born is like heartbreakingly crushing to Homer. And to have that flip-flop where like you couldn't have done it any other way and gotten away with it because of how anti-baby Homer was. But the fact that like as soon as Maggie's born, she grabs his thumb and he's like instantly drawn to her and
instantly falls in love with his daughter. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's all very sweet. That was sweet and touching enough as is. But then when they cap it off with the ending, because you forget about the fact that the story's about not having pictures of Maggie. Like you completely forget about that until that last moment.
It's such a great early setup with a strong punch at the end with that callback, and it's just all so wonderful. And that brings us to the end of And Maggie Makes Three. Real quick, since we're so close to that sign, I just want to point out that is actually a George Meyer thing. He really loves writing jokes that involve anagrams and just other various forms of wordplay, and he was the one that came up with the idea, and he actually credited that they were trying to go for a style that reflects Al Jaffe's, who was responsible for those fold-ins that you would find in Mad magazines.
Yeah.
That was kind of the idea behind it, and he turned that into Do It For Her, and that was his work. But again, that's the end of And Maggie Makes Three. Richie, is there anything that you or that book want to talk about before we roll on out of here?
Well, my book actually pointed out a few things, but we actually named them all, and we saw them on our own, so congratulations. No errors on our behalf for that.
Woohoo!
I mean, other errors probably somewhere, but not in regards to that. But I just want to say, for a Merkin-led show, this has quite the heartfelt ending, and I like it when you get that little bit of a branching out where it's a different style of story, where we're not just doing the same bit every week, even though, as we always mention, as we were younger, we wish it was the same style of story every week with the absurdity and the funny. But as an adult, this episode definitely has more impact. I think this episode made me tear up even as a child, though. It's just that's how emotional the ending is.
See, I don't remember having the emotional ending like that. I remember thinking it was very sweet, but I don't ever remember tearing up in any way. But maybe I'm misremembering. Or maybe I was just tougher back then.
You weren't. What does Bart call Homer? Some kind of sissy at one part.
Yeah, there was a sissy tantrum.
Yeah, you really threw a tantrum like a little sissy girl. Which
exactly.
That was Bart's line, not ours. But anyways, yeah, very, very good episode. I still don't think it's going to be in my top 5, but I mean, the emotional impact of I Love Lisa put it all the way to the top of my season 4 list. So maybe when I'm looking at the list of episodes, the emotional draw behind this one might send it up the list a little more.
I think we're going to need a bigger top 5.
Okay. Jaws. I was trying to think of the captain's name and I couldn't remember.
Captain Jaws.
Captain Jaws, the main character of Jaws.
Right on. Well, I have just one more thing to add, and that is a quote from Ricky Gervais, who in an interview named this as his second favorite episode of The Simpsons ever. And his quote, Mr. Burns gives Homer this terrible plaque above his desk that says, "Don't forget, you're here forever." It's about how sometimes things just don't go the way you planned, which is pretty amazing in a cartoon. Homer then puts up all the pictures of Maggie he's ever taken to strategically cover this horrible thing, so it now reads, "Do it for her." It gives me a lump in the throat just thinking about it. We're in the same boat there, Ricky. And one last real quick shout out to Ashley at Teach That Ash, who has stated this as her favorite episode. We had a lot of fun poking a little fun at her because she didn't get the recording in we were hoping for, but we still appreciate the very sweet sentiment and the kind words. Again, hope the joke went over well, but this is listed as her favorite, or one of her favorite episodes, she stated. So special shout out to her. Hope you're listening and hope you enjoyed our review. That's going to do it for this week's Best Darn Diddly Review show. Richie, what do you want to plug this week?
You can follow everything Best Darn Diddly at bestdarndiddly.com. But more specifically, you can follow us on Twitter at bestdarndiddly. That's DIDDLY. Also follow us on Instagram. We're on Facebook. You can follow me personally on Twitter at theWiz_kid23. You can also follow Miles on Twitter at MrMostDaysOff. And make sure you give the show a follow first, and then follow us for fun in the sun.
And thank each and every one of you so much for tuning in and joining us on this journey through the golden age of The Simpsons and beyond. We love each and every one of you who download and come along for the ride with us. The WizKid and I are going to be back again next week for our review of Bart's Comet.
And for now, sorry we had to split.
Until next time, be cromulent to each other.
Hi, I'm Lainey, host of the True Crime Fan Club podcast. If you're a true crime addict like I am, then my show is for you. I'll peel back the curtain and give you a glimpse into the life and crimes of some of the most demented minds. Check out the episode Broken Bonds and listen to a brother reveal a deeply held secret. Or hear about the day that the heavy metal community will never forget in the episode Dime Bag. These episodes are just a sample of our catalog, so you have plenty to binge. Just search for True Crime Fan Club Podcast and any podcatcher. You won't want to miss an episode.